The 140-pound division is one that often confuses me. You've got guys like Danny Garcia, Ruslan Provodnikov, Lucas Matisse, Lamont Peterson ruling the roost. These are all guys who, in my opinion, are technically limited. These are all guys who, between the four of them, barely know how to throw a jab. These are all guys who are very one-dimensional in their movement. These are guys without a refined defence. It's funny how you get this in divisions. If you look at the 154-pound division, you've got guys like Austin Trout, Lara, the Charlo brothers. I'm forgetting who else I'm trying to say, but you know, you've got a whole depth of fighters, Issei Smith, who are all kind of Demetrius Andrade is the other one. It's playing on my mind trying to remember that. So you've got guys at 154 who are all that kind of slick boxer, amateur style, movement, jabbing, angles. At 140, you've got, as I say, those four fighters are really considered the top of the division. Provodnikov, Matisse, Garcia and Peterson. And they're all sort of come forward guys. They're all guys you'd want behind you in a bar fight. You know, hard as nails, aggressive guys. I believe Dwyer refers to Danny Garcia as a mid-range hooker. And I think in this opinion, he's really got Danny Garcia right there. You know, Garcia, he's in entertaining fights, he's an entertaining fighter to watch. He's got a lot of things to like about him, but he is not the greatest boxer in the world. His jab is not there. His movement is not elite in my opinion. His defence is wide open, but he's got a lot of things going for him as well. He can punch to the body. He throws punches in bunches. He throws combinations of powerful hooks. He's durable. He seems to have a really decent chin on him. You know, he's a very entertaining fighter to watch. And he's a power puncher, you know. I know his knockout ratio isn't spectacular, but I think he, you know, that doesn't, his record alone doesn't make clear how hard he hits. He's fought a real tough level of opposition, you know. Wins over guys like Matisse, wins over guys like Amir Khan at 140. You know, if you get wins over guys like that, you deserve, as far as I'm concerned, to be the number one in the division. Or certainly up that way. But what I think this division is open for is a real boxer. You know, a 140-pound equivalent of Erislandy Lara, of Demetrius Andrade, who can really put the cat amongst the pigeons here. To say something controversial, if Frankie Gavin loses to Kell Brook in their match coming up, I would recommend that they seriously consider dropping to 140 pounds with Frankie Gavin. Not only because I don't think he's got the power to do damage at 147, not only because, having met the guy, I think he could make the weight, but also because I think his style, you know, that sort of boxer, technical, amateur style, I think there's more room for someone like him in the 140 pound division than in the 147 pound. Now, I'm not necessarily saying here that I'm picking Frankie Gavin to beat Danny Garcia, but what I mean is I think it's right for someone like that to come through and to be competitive against these guys. Look at how Chris Algieri performed against Ruslan Provodnikov in a fight which I scored a draw. Now, Chris Algieri's got flaws to his game. He's not a perfect fighter, but he's a good example. You know, someone like Chris Algieri, who was, at the very minimum, very competitive against Ruslan Provodnikov, would, I think, make a very good fight for Danny Garcia. You know, Chris Algieri is durable. Yes, he gets dropped. He gets hurt in fights. but he gets up and he doesn't tend to get stopped. He's got a jab. He's got exceptional legs. He's got decent punch variety. I think that stylistically, Danny Garcia versus Chris Algieri is a much better matchup than Chris Algieri Amir Khan. I think that's a competitive fight. I'd give Chris Algieri a serious chance of upsetting the apple cart there. Clearly Garcia would be favourite, I'm not suggesting otherwise, and clearly you'd have to expect Garcia to win. But I think that's an entertaining fight. Another guy could be Adrian Broner. I think Adrian Broner is one of the elite defensive boxers in the sport. And recently against John Molina, he showed an improvement in his punch output, his volume and his jab. You know, if he could be going up against the Matises of this world, the Provodnikovs, the Garcias, the Petersons, if he could be keeping his volume up with that jab, you know, using his slick elite defensiveness when they're coming in, hooking, throwing power punches, if he can be counter-punching these guys, I think he's got a good chance of seeing success. And I think he's another guy, you know, he's got an excellent chin, never been stopped. He took an absolute hiding in that Maidana fight, but kept fighting to the bell, you know. I think guys like Algieri, guys like Broner, the division, I think, is ripe for one of these guys to really take it by the scruff of the neck. Because all the guys at the top of the division are beatable. Garcia, Peterson, Provodnikov, Matisse. And I understand some of those guys will probably end up gravitating to 147 anyway. So there may be a bit of change at the top of the division. But I think there is scope for someone to come in and upset these guys. You know, Danny Garcia, really, really good fighter, solid fighter. But in my opinion, he does nothing exceptional. You know, there's nothing about him that makes me think, wow. He's got a good left hook. You know, maybe that is, maybe he does have a wow left hook, but there's nothing else to his game. I don't think you know, Garcia is competitive against. Well, let's put it this way. Here is a list of fighters I would pick over Danny Garcia. Mayweather, Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, Amir Khan in a rematch, Kell Brook, and there's other fighters that I'd even say could be competitive against him, lesser fighters, Paulie Malignaggi, Devin Alexander. Put simply, I think a pure boxer who can use range, who can judge distance, who can try and stay on the outside, who's got a set of legs, who can move around Garcia, can beat him. Ashley Fairfane gave him problems. Amir Khan gave him problems. Mauricio Herrera gave him a hell of a lot of problems. For me, the guy can be outboxed, and he is vulnerable. However, where Danny Garcia is in his element is in a barroom brawl style fight. The guy loves a war. He's hard as nails. He's durable. You know, as I say, he took a lot of shots from Amir Khan. This is a guy who went 12 rounds with the hard punching Matisse and won, actually dropping Matisse. This is a guy who is at his best when he's at close range, firing off combinations of hooks. You know, that is where Danny Garcia is in his element. Now, Lamont Peterson, in my opinion, gave probably his best career performance against Amir Khan. We saw a relentless doggedness to his game, come forward aggression, body punching, combinations of hooks, just sort of mauling, brutal, relentless pressure that Peterson exerted. There are some similarities. Obviously, they are different fighters, but there are some similarities between Peterson and Garcia. But I've got two reasons why I say Garcia wins the fight. The first is that Lamont Peterson isn't an A-list puncher, whereas I think Danny Garcia may be. I certainly think he's the bigger puncher of the two. And I think Danny Garcia's got a really good chin, whereas I think Lamont Peterson is a bit glassy. You know, he got dropped early at least once by Amir Khan. You know, Danny Garcia beat Matisse, whereas Matisse battered Lamont Peterson, knocked him out. So I think Danny Garcia is the bigger puncher. I think stylistically it's going to be a wall. I think Garcia is the bigger puncher with the power angle. And I think Peterson's the one with the worst chin. So I think if it goes early, if there's a knockout, you'd be very surprised if it wasn't Danny Garcia winning by knockout. In terms of winning on points, realistically, I don't think Lamont Peterson has the tools to expose Danny Garcia. Because his come-forward style, his punches in bunches, inside fighting, hooking game, feeds into Garcia's game plan. Lamont Peterson is not suddenly going to come out on his back foot, throwing a jab, fighting long, outboxing Danny Garcia. For me, this is stylistically a wall in the centre of the ring. Lamont Peterson doesn't have the skill set to sort of outbox and to out-technique Danny Garcia. And I think of the two, Danny Garcia punches harder. He's got the potential to look more effective because of that. And he's got the potential to show that he's hurting Lamont Peterson in there. For me, it's a confident selection that Danny Garcia wins the fight. I don't see how Lamont Peterson stops Garcia. I don't think he hits hard enough, and I think Garcia is very durable. And I can't really see Lamont Peterson outboxing Garcia for 7 of 12 rounds. So for me, it's a confident selection, Danny Garcia. I think it's an excellent fight. I think it's going to be an absolute war. And I think these are the two guys who are very near the top of the 140-pound division. I do feel that this division is ripe for a boxer to come through and to cause a lot of upsets along the way. A lot of upsets. I think a lot of guys ruling the roost have big questions over their head. I think if Chris Algieri, with a new trainer, with new experiences under his belt, came down to 140 again, there's scope for him to have a lot of success. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Keen to discuss the fight, keen to discuss 140 in general. Thanks for watching.